Hello and welcome. The Leyland National is often thought as a very highly standardised bus, and indeed in many ways it actually was. But for something that was supposedly so standardised, there were so many variations and spin-offs. In this video we will be looking at the official Leyland spin-offs from the National. So expect to hear about things like the Business Commuter, the Suburban Express and the lifeliner. But I won't be looking at things like the buses that were re-engined with Volvo engines or the Greenways either. In fact, the story of the Leyland National Greenway will make a very good video on its own accord, and I will do that justice in a few months' time. When the National was first announced, British Leyland were talking about producing 2,000 buses a year. But production never reached that sort of level at all. And indeed, over 8 years, only 6,550 Mark I Nationals were built. So Leyland were looking at ways to increase the potential and the appeal of the National. Now, most of our story takes place before production of the Leyland National 2 started in 1979. There's no doubt at all that the Leyland National 2 was a totally different bus. There were more choices on specifications that operators could choose, especially in the early 1980s when the Gardner 6HLXB engine was an option. Now, one thing about the National that was special was its design. It was a very solid modular built bus that was constructed using standard sized panels and window bays. Along with the framework, this resulted in an incredibly strong structure. Coupled to a flat floor for 2/3 of the length of the bus with a step up to a further flat floor, meant that once the seats were removed there was an incredibly large space within the bus. And this left Leyland with pretty much a blank canvas to play around with. However, the modular design first came into its own when Leyland received an order for Leyland Nationals from an Australian operator. Now, Australia has different axle weight restrictions than the UK, and in order to comply with axle loading limits yet to carry the maximum possible number of passengers, Canberra called for 70 Nationals constructed to a special intermediate length of 10.9 metres. Now, the Leyland National was designed to be either 10.3 metres or 11.3 metres long, with window frames of 1.421mm for the longer version and 1.218mm for the shorter version. So by building a bus with 5 of the long window bays followed by 2 of the short window bays, they could quite easily manufacture the National in the intermediate length. A prototype was built, and this remained with Leyland until 1976 when it was registered TLS 733P and was sold to Rennies of Dunfermline. Despite this, Leyland discovered it was not simple or economical to build a 10.9 metre Leyland National, and therefore it was never offered as a regular alternative in the UK. In April 1973, the government organised an exhibition entitled Moving People in Cities at the Transport and Road Research Laboratory in Crowthorne in Berkshire. Leyland took the opportunity to reveal many of its plans for the future, including several new ideas based on the Leyland National, one of which was a very remarkable design. And this was the Business Commuter, and this was fitted out as a very high specification 22-seat executive coach. 8 passengers were accommodated for either side of the gangway in the lower front portion of the bus, and they were situated in adjustable reclining individual seats. Situated next to each of the seats was a bank of electrical equipment, including a cassette tape recorder, dictaphone headset, selector for radio and TV sound channels, intercom, radio telephone and a reading lamp. In the rear section over the engine, 14 seats were set out more socially, around tables. Also in this area at the rear of the bus was a small servery where drinks could be made for the passengers. At the front of the bus, where normally on a conventional vehicle was the luggage bin and a sideways facing seat, Leyland installed a secretarial area, which featured such items as a public address personal call system, radio telephone, radio television, electric typewriters, paper shredder and photocopying machines. There's no doubt about it that the business commuter was an extravagant vehicle, but the reasoning behind the design was pretty sound. Leyland proposed that groups of executive passengers who travelled regularly over similar routes could arrange to be driven daily to and from work in the business commuter. Each executive would be provided with a small pocket pager which could then be activated by the secretary of the bus to warn him that they would shortly be calling to collect him at his house. Once full, the bus would then speed into the city centre using dedicated bus lanes. Leyland estimated that the costs of a regular return fare would be comparable to that of a first-class railway season ticket. But the service offered by the bus would be much more personal and vastly superior. And as a little fun fact, the interior of the Supernational was actually built by Clements of Bromsgrove, who specialises in the construction of exhibition displays and stands. Registered UTJ 595M, this bus still survives but is awaiting restoration. At the exhibition that saw the debut of the first Supernational, Leyland also unveiled the first dual-purpose National, which was one of 46 destined for Crosville. And this was to result in yet a further spin-off. At the 1973 Scottish Motor Show, Leyland exhibited a 10.3 Leyland National, which was to become RRM148M. Again built within a standard body shell, the forward section of the floor was raised to avoid inward-facing seats over the front wheel arches. A step was introduced just behind the driver's cab. It was fitted with 48 high-backed seats, and this was christened the Suburban Express. Fortunately, this important bus survives in preservation and is fully restored. Also at the Crowthorne exhibition, sketches of two further possible variants of the Supernational were revealed by Leyland. One was a 6.7 metre long minibus with 24 seats in it, whilst the other was a 12.8 metre 52-seater designed as an airport transporter with doors in the middle of each side. Other suggestions by Leyland included a mobile telephone exchange, a television outside broadcasting unit, a mobile library or shop, mobile exhibition vehicle, or even an ultra-luxurious mobile home. At the 1974 Earls Court Motor Show, Leyland exhibited yet another new version of the Leyland National. This was to become the lifeliner. Yet again, it was a standard body shell, complete with standard running units, but was equipped as a mobile casualty and communications centre to provide immediate on-site medical aid to victims of major accidents and incidents. The interior was based on the flat-floor Suburban Express vehicle and featured all sorts of goodies such as medical equipment, radio, telephone, CCTV, loudspeakers, powerful searchlights which were mounted on extendable roof pylons, and the internal area which had 6 casualty beds, complete with medical aids and electronic monitoring system. The bus was also fitted with an adjustable suspension so it could be driven over rough ground. Exhibited with the registration LSN3N, which was for Leyland Supernational number 3, it created great interest, but Leyland decided against marketing it. The interior of the lifeliner was dismantled during 1975 and the bus subsequently emerged as a conventional 11.3 metre bus for Midland Red and was registered GOL438N. Also at the Earls Court Motor Show, Leyland showed the first Leyland National, which was fitted with the fully automatic G2 transmission. And the National Bus Company announced its intention to purchase the first tailor-made production model of the business commuter, which was to be fitted with the fully automatic transmission system. The National Bus Company business commuter was to be used as a mobile boardroom or for transporting executive parties around the country. The coach had 26 seats and came with a secretary hostess. There was no equality in those days, unfortunately. It also featured a toilet, a refrigerator, generating set, television, demountable wardrobe, secretary facilities, public address system, and ample luggage accommodation under the rear seats. Registered JMY 120N, this beautiful vehicle survives in preservation to this day. In November 1974, another spin-off of the Leyland National was revealed, and this was probably one of the more successful ones. Now, as you know, the Leyland National was an integrally built bus, but Leyland had realised that a lot of countries would prohibit the import of complete buses in order to protect their local bodybuilding industries. And this resulted in Leyland working with Eastern Coachworks to design a completely knocked down kit of the bodywork for the Leyland National, which would be suitable for export. The bus, known as C27, was a strange blend of Leyland National and Eastern Coachworks. Within 6 months, Leyland had carried the C27 development a stage further. A separate chassis was designed to utilise all the National running units. The prototype was known as the B21 and had an independent frame, similar to the former Leyland Panther, although not quite so substantial. To assist with engine cooling in tropical climates, the radiator was moved to the front in the same way as the Bristol RE. In fact, Leyland had wanted to replace the Bristol RE with the B21, which for a while was marketed as the Leyland Lion. Interestingly, because of more urgent demands on the Leyland National production line, the B21 wasn't tooled for volume production until it had been on offer for about 6 years. The biggest export for the B21 was undoubtedly Australia, where they operated with Transperth, Darwin and Surfside bus lines, to name a few of the operators that took them. An operator in Belgium purchased 25, and 150 were initially ordered by Israel, but problems with financing saw this order cancelled. Closer to home, Ulster Bus bought 4, whilst Ipswich Corporation bought 6. By the early 1980s, the country was in a severe recession, and this had a very severe impact on the Leyland National. Fortunately, the factory was highly mechanised, which enabled it to operate at a drastically reduced output. But Leyland was on the hunt for alternative work, which resulted in a joint development with British Rail Engineering Limited to introduce lightweight railcars. Work had originally started on this way back in 1976, and the first prototype, called R1, or the Leyland Experimental Vehicle, was built in 1978. It was a single car, 12.4 metres long, and made up of 8 standard Leyland National window bay modules and a bus-type front at each end. It was fitted with a Leyland 510 engine and self-changing gears transmission. The LEV made a demonstration trip to the United States, but there was concern about the ability of the structure to stand up to railway end loading collision requirements. The original LEV-1 resembled a Mark I Leyland National, but by the time of construction of R2, LEV-2 and LEV-3, Leyland National 2 production was in full swing, and they looked more akin to the National 2s. Again, it was felt by the rail unions that the front end windscreens weren't sufficient enough for rail use, and if you look closely at this picture you can see there were secondary windscreens put actually inside. Both the second and third prototypes went overseas. The second prototype went to America and the third prototype went to Ireland. The fourth prototype featured a more angular front and looked like what would become the Class 141 rail buses. This was tested in America as well as in Denmark. It later returned to British Rail and was used as a classroom before again being exported out to Ireland this time. Various other prototypes were built and tested by Leyland and British Rail, and this resulted in the 140 class DMU. Each unit comprised of 2 vehicles and had a capacity of 102 seats. The DMU was powered by 2 TL11 diesel engines, and these were driven through a self-changing gears gearbox, which gave the train a top speed of 75 miles an hour. There was only one of these built before production of the Class 141 started. There were 20 of these units built, They had a very similar mechanical specification to the Class 140, although the Class 141 only seated 95 passengers per unit. Internally, it was easy to see how the whole design had derived from the Leyland National, with bus-style seats, the Leyland National lighting and roof panels, as well as the interior Leyland National window pans. Both the Class 141 and its replacement, the Class 142, were built by BR at Derby Litchurch Lane workshops, and the type became known as Pacers. Now these are definitely the Marmite of railways. You either love them or you hate them. And my guilty pleasure is that I actually quite like them. Cue everybody leaving the channel in complete shock. Please turn the light out before you go. There's a few special versions of the National that I've not yet mentioned, and I'll mention them briefly. In 1977, the Scottish Office took two 10.3 buses for the transport of high security prisoners, which were converted by Coventry Steel Caravans of Newport Pagnell. Two 10.3 metre Leyland Nationals were fitted out as mobile banks, and these were for the Midland Bank, and were used to serve customers in rural Lincolnshire. Also, British Airways, who had become quite a large operator of Leyland Nationals, took three unique buses, if you can use that word for three vehicles. They were modified by Wadham Stringer at Portsmouth, where the front near side bay was stripped away. A subframe was built and supported a front forward facing platform. A door was fitted to the near side of the resulting half cab opening onto the platform. The canopy created by the modification was gusseted to retain roof strength. A Webasto heater was fitted and amalgamated with the standard Leyland National heating system to ensure the bus could be heated quickly when standing without the engine running. This also featured doors on both the offside and the near side in the middle. Now, while not strictly Leyland National, in the late 1970s there was a great deal of interest in the concept of articulated buses. Leyland, in the form of its Danish subsidiary DAB, produced an articulated bus chassis, and one of these was shown at the Motor Show in 1977. This was bodied at Workington using largely Leyland National body parts. Later, Leyland DAB Arctics were actually bodied by Charles Rowe in Leeds, but used Leyland National parts. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the not so standard Leyland Nationals. And as I always say, this is just a potted history of a very successful vehicle that's been crammed into a 20-minute video. So if I've missed anything out or forgotten to put anything in, I do apologise in advance. Now do please remember that this video was all about the buses that were specifically built by the Leyland National factory. Although I have sort of extended the rules a little bit with the rail buses and the DAB Arctics. So that's why I've not really gone into things like the Northern General rebuilds or the Crosville electric bus. And as I said previously, coming up there will be a video on the Leyland National Greenway. I remember when the Greenway first came out looking at them with horror, thinking how can anyone do that to a Leyland National, but having driven them, they are superb machines, I can assure you. If you did enjoy this factory modified video, please like and share it amongst your friends, family and colleagues. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you'll receive notifications when I make further releases in this and my other series on YouTube as well. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.